Since its launch in 2005, Broad Street Review has sought to promote the exchange of viewpoints rather than any particular point of view. To that end, we welcome commentary from professionals and amateurs alike about the performing and visual arts, as well as any other field of interest to our eclectic group of contributors. The following interview was submitted to Broad Street Review, powered by Rep Radio. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I'm in Rep Radio Studio B, and I'm here with the group known as Almanac, who has also been described as the little dance theater troupe that could. And there's a handful of people here, and I'll have them introduce themselves.
Hey, I'm Adam Kerbel. I'm one of the performers.
Robin Stamey. I'm a company member, administrator, production manager, and designer with Almanac.
Clancy Philbrick. I'm actually a visual artist collaborating with Almanac.
Okay. Welcome to Rep Radio.
Hello.
Thanks.
As I was saying before we hit record, I've been aware of Almanac for a while, and I think Nick Gillette was probably my introduction to Almanac. And If I don't get a chance to sit down and chat with a group, I'm just glad that they're doing well. So when I find out that shows are selling out or that you're getting all this attention, I'm like, oh, great. That's all that matters. So I think it's great that after 8 seasons, there are still people that I have not sat down to chat with. So I'm glad to have you all here. And the production you have on stage right now is called Leaps of Faith and Other Mistakes.
Yep.
And I'm very excited to know about that. But first, tell us a little bit about Almanac.
Yeah, Almanac is a group of, I think we came together as Nick and Ben had graduated Pig Iron. I came from Headlong Performance Institute. And we just kind of wanted to create a little trio piece together that when we decided to make into a full-length show, we incorporated another classmate of theirs. And then after that, we made a second show called Leaps of Faith, in which we incorporated Robin. And that was kind of the point that I think we sort of took off as a group who are going to continue to make work with regularity. And also just kind of like giving ourselves our own personal platforms to be the artists that we want to be. So it's kind of always been that collaborative as well as just like explorational.
Mm-hmm. And is there a genre that Almanac fits into, per se? If we were trying to figure out how do I find Almanac? If I'm looking for what?
I love that question because I think a lot of work in Philly defies category in that way, and that's a good thing. It's almost like there's so many people defying category that it's its own sect of performing arts. So
I mean, a home of artistic disruption.
Yeah. I think so. I think in performing arts, and it's a pretty happening thing here. So we're a multidisciplinary arts organization: theater, dance. Mm-hmm. Our use of acrobatics, and trying to incorporate a real collaborative way of working in terms of working with the other necessary artists of theater, designers, administrators, people who kind of are friends or have moments of feedback, things like that. It's kind of all swirling in. So, I don't know. If we were in a different city, I guess we would just call ourselves a theater company or like a dance theater company. But I think that it's been pretty easy to establish ourselves as people who combine 3 things in pretty equal measure: dance and circus and theater. And I feel like people have pretty well caught on. People pretty well know how to identify us when they catch us in the street or at a show or something.
Yeah. It is interesting. It feels like in the past couple of years we've had a lot more focus on circus arts and movement like it was never here before. and it was there, but then you started seeing a lot of use of silks everywhere. You know, everywhere that had height, it was just like it just sort of jumped out of nowhere, and then it became this thing and sort of like I guess kind of like a buzzword in a sense. But what do you think? What do you think kind of promotes or encourages this movement of circus arts and infuses that into theater?
Well, I know Robin has a lot to say to this in terms of our company, but I think it's great that you brought up what a rich tradition Philly has of mixed performing arts.
Yeah.
And that extends way beyond dance and stage performance. I mean, the jazz tradition here is pretty long, pretty strong, and other arts. But yeah, I mean, people like group motion, improvisation in Philly has been around for a long time, and body artists. So that's true. But yeah, I mean, circus. I think Robin probably knows better than me, but my impression is that circus has kind of become popular again in this like aerial way, silk way, gym-like atmosphere, and it does seem like there are a lot of people who do, I don't know what you would call it. I hesitate to use the term sideshow, but people seem like they do fire breathing and like fire spinners, and seems like there's a lot of that around.
Street circus.
Yeah.
I mean, the United States is very slow to catch on to circus in general.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's the circus that everyone thinks about with animals and elephants and things like that, but there's also the circus of the street, the people being on the street performing for you right there in front of you, doing these amazing things that you never thought you could do with your body. Yeah. That a person could do with their body.
That used to be what was kind of a draw for South Street.
Right.
You don't see it very often.
Yeah. And the United States is definitely slowly realizing that is still a way to tell a story. It's not just spectacle.
Yeah.
And there is something about the way Almanac uses an extreme physicality. I like to say that we are physical theater to the extreme. We're literally, we throw Adam around all the time to help tell a story, you know, and that's not always the case with movement as well. Yeah, because you can totally have movement for the sake of movement's sake, and that's beautiful, and that definitely hits people on a deep level as well. But our goal is to help tell a story with it.
And I think even if people are looking at it as new, it's just sort of new because the Fringe Festival, as it's evolved over the years, has always been interdisciplinary in its sense. And if you are in the Fringe circuit, you've always been aware of this. And now that they are year-round and their artists are getting more consistent work, it's starting to move into the traditional theater spaces, which is also really good because theater was getting kind of stuffy for a little bit. And there's a ton of people who just think that theater is not for them, but then they go, oh, well, I'll go to something like that. That looks cool. But guess what? That's theater. Those are the foundations of theater and all of this, but you just have to find your kind of niche in it.
Yeah.
You know, if you like comedy, that's theater.
Right.
You find your way in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everything, I mean, any truly engaging performance is theater. Dance is theater.
Yeah.
Any art form. I think live art form. Ultimately, what we're creating is theater, but the means that we use to express or communicate whatever it is that we have to communicate, I think, dance speaks in its ways, and every art form. But yeah, cabaret, singers. I mean, it's all kind of like experiencing theater. There's drama, often in any type of live experience that you see.
Yeah.
But we just all reframe it, recontextualize it.
Yeah. So I always, whenever I get a group together, I always ask,
this hammy kind of question because my freshman year I was in Fame, and Fame has this wonderful chant that I always call back to, where they're trying to figure out which one is the hardest profession in the world, whether it's acting, dance, or music. So what do you think is the hardest profession in the world?
Producing theater.
Producing is the hardest profession in the world. Yes, it is. Yes, trying to float checks is the hardest profession in the world.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys?
Do you think any of them have any kind of a... I think there's this mindset that dance has a shelf life because of its physicality, and maybe you can't carry that throughout too long. But so many people have proven that to be fallacy as well. And music continues to evolve, and acting. I don't know an actor that's not still learning.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense, and I think that's why that chant works. And you're just like, that's me, that's me, that's me. So it works out. But I always just think it's fun to ask about.
What's the line again?
So there's a song called "Hard Work"
Yeah.
in Fame, and they'll say, acting is the hardest profession in the world. Uh-huh. The hardest profession is acting.
Right.
And then the dance students will come in, and they come in a beat after, and they'll say, dance is the hardest profession in the world. The hardest profession is dance. It's the hardest profession in the world. And then music, and it's like, music is the hardest profession in the world. The hardest profession is music. And when it comes all together, you're just like, okay, I like all of it. Anyway,
oh my God.
It's my hammy moment.
Well, it's been cool because we haven't argued over which one's harder, but in the collaborative process, there's been a lot of talk about just the pros and cons or differences of music, acting, and visual art.
Yeah.
Right, and how those different modalities are either shipped out or captured or sold, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh yeah.
And that conversation's actually come up between us in the last month or so. And Mel, our musician's been like, yeah, it's so easy. I write a song, and then I just send out MP3s all over the place. When she was watching me lug a painting up the stairs, and she's like, yeah, that looks physically hard. And then Robin's like, yeah, well, I can't. Anything I produce is here one night and then gone the next. Right, so they're not. I mean, for better or worse, it's been interesting to
But there was,
dissect the
but there were
differences.
moments in all of that where it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
There's the musician who got to that point where they were just like, you know what, I'm going to quit, but they didn't. And now that they didn't, everything just sort of makes sense now.
Yeah.
Same thing with dance, and same thing with music,
I mean,
and producing too. I mean, producing. I think at least for me as a producer, I was kind of ignorant with it, where I was saying, I don't understand. Book a venue, tell everybody you're coming, and wait for them to show up. But because I said it in that way, it was easier for me to get moving.
Right.
And then once I got into it, I was like, oh, I kind of got to talk to these papers.
Right.
And
Dare I say you took
a
a leap of faith?
I did. I took a leap of faith. And now I'm too in my head about all of it, and it makes me nervous.
Yeah.
All right, so that was a great segue.
Sure.
So leaps of faith and other mistakes. Tell me about it. What were its origins, and what has it evolved into now? I had the opportunity to watch the 5-minute clip on the website.
From our 2015 performance.
Was that at PAFA?
That was at the Fleischer Art Memorial.
Oh, Fleischer.
Yeah,
really?
in their sanctuary.
I just realized I have never been in that building.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You gotta go. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh, well, yes. Okay, so tell us about leaps of faith and other mistakes.
I think I think of it in two ways. There's the story forward way that we put forward, which is we wanted to embark on a process that explored something about fanaticism, something about experiencing divinity or a sense of faithfulness in the religious sense, and just wanting to play with a sense of danger. That's kind of where the acrobatics always comes in. And then also on a maybe more more inside level, just as one of the performers in it, I think we were just kind of wanting to begin with questions of how do we combine these moves that we're really into, balancing on each other, starting to throw each other around, with like telling a story or using words and story like a play the whole way through. Is it possible to do both? And we were kind of like, is it possible to have the expanded awareness of like we have words and dialogue and almost a scene to play while we're like balancing someone over here and on someone's head over there and running around and doing stuff. And then as we started to mess around in the studio over weeks and months, we came into contact with Fleischer Art Memorial, who kind of opened their space up to us, and we're like, hey, listen, if you're interested in doing a show, we have this beautiful, gorgeous, Romanesque sanctuary space. And when we took a tour and looked at it, we were like, oh my God, this like completes the missing puzzle piece of the show we think we need to make. So it became all of a sudden something about like physical danger in the sense of like fast, intense movement, balances, bodies stacked up on each other in this place that felt pristine and fragile and delicate, this sanctuary. And I think the story that we kind of landed on sort of rose to meet that tension, that frisson between those elements. So yeah, and I think all through it's been a process of, in 2015 as well as again in 2017, it's been a process of just questioning and examining who we are as individuals and what happens as a group, as a collective who work together. And and it's on display in, I think, a lot of nonverbal ways, and then we use crazy, wacky text and language of our play to point at a fictional story of seafarers.
Yeah, and was that space the missing piece, or was it the element that helped you sort of figure out what this is?
I think
because you can't always produce in that space, but it has to still make sense somewhere else.
If I understand you correctly, I think it was like a key that unlocked us. It revealed to us what this piece could really be about.
Yeah,
we were already collaborating with the playwright Josh McIlvaine, who was writing a lot of sketches and scenes. He was in the room with us all the time while we would improvise. He would kind of like watch us and scratch his chin and not say anything all day, and then come back with a bunch of scenes.
Yeah.
And we tried to cobble something together, but I think seeing the space, and that's also, I think, about the time Robin's deep involvement in the work began, where we started touring the space, and she was developing a production plan that, I think, being in the presence of just the space, the idea of like, so where are we going to do this thing? Taught us a lot about what it could be. Yeah.
I want to get as close to Broadway height as possible on a fringe budget. So how do we make that work?
Well, the Fleischer space, our original, the space did a lot of work for us.
Yeah.
Moving it to the Painted Bride Art Center in the gallery space, we're not on the main stage. And the gallery space was a whole different beast. It's blank white walls, this wooden floor.
Yeah.
And working with Clancy, we really started to like dig into what actually is the story we're telling, and how can we help unlock the show not just for the performers but for the audience as well.
Yeah.
That took a lot of running around Philadelphia and beyond.
All right, Clancy. Yeah. So tell us, how do you turn that gallery space into a work of art?
Oh man, it was an awesome challenge, and I think it sort of started with some research missions. Robert and I went to the Seaport Museum in Philadelphia, and then I went to the Seaport from my hometown in Mystic, Connecticut, and we did a lot of research. I think we lucked out. It wasn't obviously coincidence, but both my work and Almanac's work, the themes were similar, the representational themes. So these like seafaring, the ocean, sort of mystery journeys. So we had these pieces that already sort of linked up in their like representational aspects, and then luckily they also linked up conceptually. So it became that what part of it was easy. The actual like physical changing the space was a lot of trial and error. A lot of sketching, a lot of thoughts, a lot of hanging. Have you seen the space?
No, but I follow you on Instagram,
Cool.
so I've been watching
Cool. All right.
couches move around.
And it was a lot of like back and forth, which has been the sort of process the whole time. You know, we would, Robert and I would do something, performers would come in and try it. Hey, this works. Hey, this pulley just fell on my head. This doesn't work, right? The couch slides on this. It doesn't on this. And so there's been this like awesome sort of like back and forth trial and error to the actual like physical aspect of the space. But I think we've arrived at a space that's like simultaneously super cozy. We notice like we find ourselves wanting to hang out there.
Nice.
It's like intimate. It's also it's like really receptive to the lighting and sort of emotional stuff, but then it's also very physical, and like the actors engage with it in this awesome way where they're manipulating it and changing it and sort of banging on it, but also like delicately playing in it.
Yeah.
So it arrived, I think, at a cool spot.
Cool. So I noticed the run is a long run. You're going pretty much through the whole through all of Fringe. How do you keep your energy high? What is the
Whiskey.
How do you keep
Lots of whiskey.
keep yourself there? Like what is sort of your preparation? Because I know some of our listeners out there, they only see the finished work, but they don't know what goes into it. They don't know how you reset, how you unwind, how you step out of this world and then assess the rest of your life and then get yourself ready for these things. So what is a day? Describe a day where you prepare for leaps of faith. There's whiskey, but
there is whiskey.
Unless it's
the
an
whiskey
Irish
comes
breakfast,
later.
then
Yeah,
that's kind of
you have to earn the
day.
whiskey. I think first, like at a very foundational level, we spent a lot of time in the studio together. I mean, Robin is with us. We're in rehearsal rooms or our little acro gym, training, like physically strengthening our bodies, but mostly like just engaging ourselves physically, doing acrobatics, playing some games, stretching a bunch, always like experimenting, toying around in terms of bodies on top of bodies. And so the sort of that constancy, I think, leads to a general preparedness in the bodies of the performers. Mm-hmm. So when it comes time to take on a production, and in particular this one where we were like, let's spend 6 weeks rehearsing for about 8 hours a day, the process of that rehearsal period breaks us down physically, but is also rebuilding a huge wealth of energy to be able to be doing this over and over. And I think along with that comes a mental space that you enter. It's like, well, I know I'm not just doing this 3 or 4 times. I know that we're in rehearsals for weeks and weeks, and I know we're going to be in tons of performances. And as every performer knows, you expend a lot of energy through a performance. I mean, more than you would in a rehearsal sense. So it kind of self-prepares us, but I think it also individually takes a lot of mental prep and just like mental cheerleading. Like we really have to cheerlead ourselves, and Robin's a big help with that. So that's like foundation. And then for me, I don't know if we've had a chance to talk about this, but talking about what kind of energy sustains the performance, what sustains 18 performances, is we're not the only thing in the room creating experience. Yeah. So we're not just actors in a blank space. The gallery, I mean, I think focuses attention for the performers and the audience to minute detail. So that's rich territory for us as performers, as well as there's sails hanging and blowing all over the walls. There's an interesting lighting design, an unusual lighting design, different than if we had been in a real proscenium stage. So there's different things that I think, the audience will see whatever they see, but from the inside of it, there's a lot of elements that are alive. Mel, our musician, is behind us. She's like a wave of audio, physical energy. So sometimes when we're getting tired in a performance, it only takes coming upon the section of the show where we interact with the sail. And all of a sudden, the performance is no longer actor-generated. It's like material performance. I am the sail. I am experiencing the music that's coming from behind me. I think that does a lot of the work for us.
Yeah. And see, that stuff is interesting, and that's the stuff we want to get more people to know about, because I think, we have, there's so much here. Like, we are aware of the art scene, and we know that it is vibrant. Mayor Nutter used to say how vibrant this community
Mayor Nutter!
is. So vibrant. But at the same time, there's somebody who's only a sports fan.
Right.
Who's
Right.
only a foodie.
Right.
And they don't realize what goes in here, so when they get into a space and they say, $25, like, I can't, $25, this isn't worth it. But you don't know what went into this. I mean, I think understanding all of that gives you a greater appreciation. And if you don't walk out of these shows saying, I didn't pay enough, I actually am so rewarded for what I just got for what I spent. I mean, that's nothing. Here's some more money. Here's the donation.
That would be nice.
I'm a super fan of the arts, so I know everybody doesn't think the way I do, but in general, what has been some of the audience feedback from this production?
The audience has to literally walk across the stage in order to get in and out of the space, and they pass by Mel, our musician, both times. The only time they really acknowledge her is after the show. And they talk about how much the music moved them, which is totally true. It's very moving and totally supports the performance in all ways. People are just generally astounded is what they say. Very impressive. And I think that definitely has a lot to do with the physical feats that are happening.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people can do a back handspring, so maybe that's what they're referencing. But
I was a school mascot once, and I think I did it once.
Well, that's awesome, because we're not in a mascot costume.
Yeah, but I had to forget about it in order to do it.
Oh, sure.
And I was blown away by that, and I had this moment going, what else can I do? But I wore so many hats at the time, because I still wear hats. I just like hats. So I just wear too many of them. So,
and as storytellers, we always want people to think about how these themes and concepts are connecting to them. On opening night, I had a friend of mine who is now a director in town just say, "This reminds me of the time that I was right out of college and we all lived together and started a theater company together."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yep, it should. That's great. Yeah. That's great." But yeah, I hope that everyone.
I think people forget what the power of collaboration is too. If you have an idea, and people glom onto your idea and build onto your idea, that is success. But some people look at that as like, oh, they're trying to change my work, and it's like, no, they get it. They get it. You've laid this foundation, and now we can add things to it, because now they're being moved by what you just presented or what you just said. And when you bring all of that together, you're like, oh wait, okay, yes. I don't understand why we don't collaborate more.
I think the collaboration on this has given audiences, I think, a whole new like way to experience theater. We have it designed so that when they get there, they spend 20, 30 minutes in the gallery space, and then how they interact with the installations and sort of the participatory stuff actually ends up sort of defining how they experience the show.
Yeah.
There's little details in there that, each person's going to get different bits and pieces. So then when they come back downstairs, and as Robin said, like walk by Mel and sort of have that experience, we actually have like what we call like a little gangplank, like get them into their seats, right? They're each going to have, a different texture and different feel to the show, which is cool. And I think the best things I've heard from the audience were just like, they use the word satisfying a lot. Mm-hmm. Sort of like comprehensive satisfaction. Yeah. Which I enjoyed.
I always look for the audience who wants to sit center stage.
Oh, that's our entire audience.
Yeah,
but at the same time, there's an experience that can be gained from not sitting center stage. Mm-hmm. Maybe you focus more on one thing, and then you see something else in the periphery. And so everyone gets a different sort of perspective. So I feel like in the last 10 interviews I've been saying we should have a repeat ticket that is half price or something, so that you can come back and experience this from another perspective. Because quite often you're seeing something and you're like, you just walk out and go, wow. And you see your friends and you're like, that was amazing. Like, just wow. Like, you can't even process everything. And because you were the fact that you just went through all of that with everyone, there's some key things you're picking out almost like a dream. But if you walk away from that and now you only have these 4 notes that you say, oh, this thing is great, you have to go see it. But there's these other pieces that you sort of throw away because these pieces have formed your opinion. These moments formed your opinion. But you need to come back, continue to digest it. That's why I like this idea of like binge watching shows. Mm-hmm. I mean, people watch shows like I'm on the third time watching this season, and I picked up on so many things that I didn't see before. They were so detailed, so minute in here, and that's what all of this. So I think if you producers out there listening, you should think about that. Send out an email and say, come back.
Repeat customer.
We actually did that.
If you bring a friend,
last
you
year.
get to come.
We did a very similar thing last year when we were on the main stage of The Painted Bride, when we had something like 200 seats to fill. And so Almanac, first off, has a policy that if anyone can't pay for a ticket, that we let them in anyway. Price should not be a barrier to seeing.
No one's turned away
stuff.
For lack of funds.
Exactly. So last year we were so grateful to have such a big house to be able to do that, and we had people come back 2 or 3 times, and sometimes they brought new people, sometimes they didn't. This year we're in a much smaller, more intimate space. We can only seat 40 people. Sometimes we stretch it to 46. It's really hard. That's part of the reason why we wanted to do such a long run. It's not only good for the performers and me as the stage manager to really be able to continually re-examine the work every night that we do it, but also so that we can offer as many opportunities for people as possible. But
there's still an intimacy in there and an urgency at the same time, because this isn't running forever.
That's true.
Even though it is running longer, but only so many people can experience it tonight. So if you only have Wednesdays, there's only a few Wednesdays, and you got to get in there. You still have to go. What do you hope an audience takes away from this experience?
I hope that audiences are giving themselves time to experience the gallery, because that, to me, feels like a very unique and rich part of experiencing the work. To talk about what is the show? Is the show just the performance, or is the show just the gallery, or is it a combination of both somehow? And I think this situation that has arose, where Clancy has created a companion. Clancy and Robin have created like companion experiences to the performance. I mean, I think that's something to really take advantage of. Get you on multiple sensory levels.
Robin, what do you hope the audience takes away from this experience?
I hope they take away that there's a big question about whether you stay and make something better, you choose to stay and make something better, or you escape and create something better on your own or with this group of people that you're with. And that they really examine that, especially in the world that we live in today, of if taking action to make the world a better place where you are is better, or if it is better to separate yourself from that and make something new.
Right. Clancy.
Yeah, I think in general, I hope audiences, I hope we as artists just lift a little weight off audiences' shoulders, allow them to just sort of live their lives, maybe even like some escapism, which I think, the performers and the experience does. It definitely like transports you to another world. And then more specifically, I think through the whole thing, there is a prompt and sort of some self-reflection that takes place. So ideally, we actually ask audience members to consider themselves and their beliefs and sort of things Robin were touching upon, like their decision-making processes. So it's sort of a weird combo of like escape from your life, but also maybe reevaluate or just sort of check back in with your life.
Yeah. You could say that you want the audience to take a leap of faith.
It's true. It's true.
I want the audience to take a leap of faith. And so I want the audience to take a leap of faith and head over to almanac.us or Fringe Arts and buy tickets. And that's plural, because theater is much better with a friend.
True.
So this is running all through the festival, and you can get your tickets and information on both sites, almanac.us and fringearts.com. Adam, Robin, Clancy, it's been a pleasure chatting with you and learning more about Almanac, and I can't wait to see the show. I'm going to take a leap of faith and make other mistakes.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rep Radio.
Want to get involved with Broad Street Review? Head on over to our website at www.broadstreetreview.com and click Get Involved at the top. While you're there, help keep us running and click Contribute to find out how. Connect with us on social media on Facebook and Twitter at Broad Street Review. Thank you for helping to keep the conversation going.